the White House is warning, and they are accurate in warning this, that if this does continue, we're going to have a travel crunch around the key holiday season because there are going to be delays at airports, and there are, of course, safety concerns as well.
Every night we plug in to Washington, don't we? Helping us with that tonight is the US reporter Anita Powell. Hi, Anita.
Hi, Daryl.
Good evening. Thank you for being with us. Let's consider what's going on right now at the White House. Donald Trump is speaking now about it's sort of a roundtable on drug cartels and human trafficking. What's happening at the White House right now?
Right. So Donald Trump has summoned the heads of his law enforcement agencies. That would be the head of the FBI, the Attorney General, and the head of Homeland Security, but also the head of the Department of Defense, now called the Department of War, to talk about actions that they're going to take against these cartels. But it's not really clear what the action item in this event is going to be. That's because, he's been speaking so far for about 8 minutes, and He's spanned a bunch of topics, including law enforcement, or rather National Guard actions in Memphis. He's kind of taking a while to get to the point, so we don't know what it is yet.
That's not like him at all, is it, Anita? That's very unusual. Okay, that's interesting. And I guess just while we wait for the detail, it's probably worth us considering the friction on this issue between the US and Mexico.
Right. Well, I mean, these strikes on boats in international waters, and most recently in the East Pacific, are controversial to leaders around the world. And this is a major item of discussion. It's a major diplomatic sore point. It really hinges on what Trump decides to do, I think, with this. It sounds like he intends, by bringing in the Secretary of Defense, I apologize, the Secretary of War, by bringing in the Secretary of War, he does want to militarize this effort. But I'm not sure what he can do in addition to designating Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist group, or it's just not clear what actions he intends to take and how that could further provoke our diplomatic friends, allies, and adversaries.
Okay, interesting. Well, we'll watch that and we'll see what happens in the next hour or so as that roundtable plays out at the White House. Anita, help us out with another of the big stories today. The US imposing further sanctions on Russian oil in an attempt to put some pressure on Moscow, I guess, to get perhaps Putin to the negotiating table. Caroline Leavitt speaking earlier at the White House.
Look, the president has always maintained that he would implement sanctions on Russia when he felt it was appropriate and necessary. And yesterday was that day. I think the president has also long expressed his frustration with Vladimir Putin and, frankly, both sides of this war. And he's always said in order to negotiate a good peace deal, both sides need to be interested in a good peace deal. And he feels as though, unfortunately, from the Russian side as of late, he has not seen enough interest and enough action in terms of moving the ball forward towards peace. And so a meeting between these two leaders is not completely off the table. I think the president and the entire administration hopes that one day that can happen again. But we want to make sure that there's a tangible, positive outcome out of that meeting.
Caroline Leavitt. Anita, okay, where do we begin with this? I mean, is this? I don't know. Where do we begin with this? What do you make?
Well, here's where I think we begin. As with every White House, but maybe especially with this one, it's more pronounced. Personality translates to policy. Yeah, we are seeing what appears to be maybe a personal row between the heads of state of the U.S. and Russia, translating into action at the national level with these sanctions. That, of course, Caroline went on to say that the U.S. is also exerting pressure on those who purchase Russian oil, and she name-checked India and China, which are, of course, two big buyers. And so he's taken what he says is very strong action over what appears to be a disagreement. And we know the core of this disagreement. Volodymyr Zelensky doesn't want to give an inch, and Putin wants Donetsk. And those are not really reconcilable positions at this point. So Trump, I guess, is trying to pressure Putin maybe to take a leaner stance, but history shows us that Putin has a very maximalist view of how big the Russian Federation, or maybe the Russian Empire, we should call it, should be.
Zelensky was very thankful earlier. I mean, you'd expect that. Probably both, literally, personally, and diplomatically, he is. That's to be expected. Do you think he is? Is it about him? It's not about him, is it?
You mean Zelensky as an individual and the relationship with Trump? I mean, there's history there, but I wouldn't presume to read into their heartfelt exchanges. I don't know. I mean, there is history where Trump in his first term did pressure Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden's son, and that has led to some disagreement between the men over the ensuing years. But one of the reasons, and I think this is important to note, one of the reasons that Trump said he is declining Zelensky's request for Tomahawk missiles, these are the long-range, very powerful, very accurate missiles, is that he does not believe that the Ukrainian armed forces have the necessary training to use them. He said it would take between 6 months to a year for these forces to learn the ropes. And in the meantime, if they want them, that would translate to the United States firing them, which would literally mean that the U.S. is at war with Russia, which I don't think any U.S. president wants.
No. Do you think that Zelensky is successfully in Donald Trump's ear at the moment? Because he's taught, I mean, obviously the Tomahawk thing aside, he has said the US needs to put pressure on Putin. He has sort of been banging this drum the last week or so, and it's come to pass. Is he starting to be more influential?
Daryl, your key word here was at the moment or in the moment, which is sort of Trump's metaphysical view of the world. He thinks in the moment. He makes decisions in the moment. So a moment ago, maybe he felt one way, and 2 moments from now, he might feel differently. So I don't think we should try to prognosticate on Trump's feelings or Zelensky's feelings, because they do ride on Trump's response, which is, of course, as you say, in the moment.
Yeah, okay. Shutdown, day 23.
23.
And counting. Yes. A bill passing through Senate, trying to get through the Senate that would keep being paid, get people paid, has failed.
Yes, and there's another potential bill from a Republican congressman to keep food benefits for poor families that is probably the next step. But we've had 12 votes that have failed. The Speaker of the House has not brought back the representatives to the floor to vote. We are currently at an impasse. And what is happening is this week, federal employees, about 500,000 of them, will not be receiving a paycheck. They'll be working for free. And of course, the pressure point there is on the 13,000 or so air traffic controllers at our nation's airports. These are, of course, people in high stress jobs with a lot of responsibility on their hands, and they're not being paid to do this critical job. And so they're seeing more people call in sick. They're seeing obviously some complaining, as anybody would, about being in this position. And the White House is warning, and they are accurate in warning this, that if this does continue, we're going to have a travel crunch around the key holiday season, because there are going to be delays at airports, and there are, of course, safety concerns as well. So this is kind of the ticking clock, I would say, that is hanging over the heads of everybody more than really anything else, I would say.
Yeah, and we know how squeezed the FAA has been, the Federal Aviation Administration. We know how tough they found it. We know how under-resourced they feel and all that sort of stuff. And we had talked a lot about that, didn't we, around some of those swirling stories of near misses and plane crashes over the last year or two. Really interesting point to make, that, isn't it? Caroline Levitt, very, very sort of hard on this at her press conference earlier. They're going in two-footed.
Well, I mean, this has been the line since day one of the shutdown from the White House, and on behalf of the White House, they've put this out at many government agencies. So this is the official government line is very hard on this shutdown. But this is really, I think it's more fair to say, the Republican Party line, that they are holding firm in their words, because they accuse Democrats of wanting to push through funding for, quote, giving health care to illegal aliens. And what this refers to is actually a legal provision that was, and a law that was enacted in 1986 under President Ronald Reagan, that whoever shows up at the emergency room in the United States, whether or not they can pay, they have to be treated. Undocumented populations have used this emergency room as a last resort, and have, burdened hospitals, of course, with lots of expenses for this. And so this is the central talking point, but really it's about if a person walks into an emergency room and they are in distress, do you treat them or do you not treat them? This doesn't seem to be a very difficult question.
Yeah, okay, it's a good point. Just finally, Anita, just briefly, if you will, we should do a new feature called Pardon Watch, shouldn't we? Because there's been another pardon from Donald Trump. Who's this?
All right, so this is, I have to look up the name, Xiaopeng Zhao. I'm going to call him CZ from now on. He was the head of Binance, which is the big cryptocurrency exchange, and he is the first person to ever serve time in prison for violations of the, quote, Bank Secrecy Act, which sounds very intriguing. The short explanation of this is on his platform, he is accused of not giving any oversight to people who are engaging in these trades for really nefarious purposes, child sex trafficking, for one. This is in line with the pardon that Trump previously gave to Ross Ulbricht. He was the founder of the dark website Silk Road, and they were using that site to conduct similarly illegal and roundly immoral actions. And so this is part of the Trump administration's view that finance and that online trades and that cryptocurrency have been overregulated by the Biden administration. So that's kind of the thinking behind this.
Right. Linked possibly to a meeting with Xi Jinping as well coming up?
Oh, yeah. So that meeting is coming up this coming week in South Korea. And again, going back to Trump being in the moment, he says everything is going to be discussed with Xi Jinping. And that was where he kind of left it. So maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I guess again, it's one of those ... We'll find out, won't we? I suppose as it begins to unravel. Anita, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been lovely having you company. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Anita Powell, who is a reporter in America